So, welcome to the show, everyone. Tonight we have Wendy Rose Williams on again. Um,
Yes.
Hello.
we're going to do some chatting about near death experiences and soul contracts.
Both very interesting subjects.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. So, Wendy, we got a few minutes to chat before we kick the show off, and you were telling us that you've had a beautiful weather up there. It has been kind of weird down here. It'll be
I'm
warm.
expecting snow.
It'll be
Oh,
like I get up and go to my other job at 5 a.m. And this morning when I got up, it was fairly warm. But then it chilled out throughout the day. But it was just the opposite yesterday. It was bitter cold in the morning and then warmed up in the day. It's almost like the weather's playing roulette.
I
You
was going
know?
to say extreme weather challenge.
Yeah, it's just confused about what it wants to do. But anyway, so let's get on to the subject of the show.
Sure.
So you're going to talk about near death experiences tonight, and lead us in with a good one.
Okay. Well, I think near-death experiences are a really big deal for people, and not just if you have one personally, but the stories that come out of them, because I think it really, really can be instructive and inspirational for listeners. So I'm noticing there's just a lot of podcasts on this topic right now, ever since Raymond Moody really opened the door, back in the 70s, and coined that term and started to research and look at what might be happening. So I had one in 1997 when I was 10 weeks pregnant with my youngest daughter. And what occurred really changed things for me and helped get me on my life path. I wish I could say it was like this, quick and easy and just woo, mid-course correction. Now you're on the right path. But it took me quite a few years to put the puzzle pieces together. And one of the things that's a common denominator in near death experiences is it just can take people decades to like put the pieces together again, because it can change your, not just your belief system, but it can change your reality so much. And a lot of people do have their marriage or long-term relationships end, or there's other just major changes as a result of them. So that's kind of the theory
Mm.
but many uplifting things too. And I know a lot of people are very grateful, as crazy as that may sound. They're grateful for having had one because they are here and they've just got like a more gratitude and more fine-tuned because they did almost die. So it can really change your perspective, not take things for granted.
Do you work with a lot of people in your line of work that have had these experiences?
Some people, certainly, some of my clients have had them and are working to, put those pieces together. So it certainly can help to talk with another experiencer, because it is just one of those, out there type of things. Like alien abductions is another one. It's just a very out there, and it can just really lead to you questioning yourself of what really happened, particularly if it's not medically documented, because some of them are, meaning medical personnel do observe it. But in because and the people are choosing to talk about it, particularly nowadays. It's just gotten more acceptable. But it used to be people would try and share some of these experiences with their nurse, their doctor, other hospital personnel, and they just didn't have any frame of reference or training for it. And I think their minds would kind of go to, uh-oh, I don't want this to be a medical malpractice issue. So they would
Mm.
just, try and, oh no, that didn't happen. That's not possible. You were just confused. There was a lot going on. Those types
Kind
of
of talk
things.
them out of it.
Talk them out of it. But also Dr. Eben Alexander's book, Proof of Heaven, that really was so educational for so many people because he's a physician, he's a medical doctor, and having had his own profound near-death experience, and as a neurosurgeon,
Mm-hmm.
for him to know, and to be able to come back from that, and to be able to say, authoritatively, like we as non-clinicians just don't have the same background to be able to say, no, that's not what happened. Here's why this happened, and here's how I can work to, prove it to you. He had experiences with visiting on the other side, and his proof of heaven was connecting with a sister that he had never known about. And if I remember the book correctly, it's been a few years since I wrote it. I believe it was an older sister who had died before he was born, and or he's adopted, but there was some reason he never knew. But for him to come back and have this information that had been shared with him, that was a piece of his proof of heaven.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah,
My husband actually had a near-death experience, several back-to-back,
Oh goodness.
following a really bad motorcycle accident, and he doesn't remember a lot of it, but I would say it flipped his world entirely upside down.
Oh, I'm sure.
So
I'm sure.
can you tell us about yours?
Sure. So what happened, I was newly pregnant, thrilled. We were both so happy because there'd been years of infertility. I'd also had two ectopic pregnancies, so it was just a really big deal to be pregnant again. And I'd had just the first visit with the doctor because it was only 10 weeks along. And everything was going fine, except I was just having this crazy amount of heartburn that I just didn't understand. And I'd called the doctor's office several times. They're like, okay, Mylanta's safe. Go ahead and, take Mylanta. It's just every pregnancy is different. Evidently, you've got heartburn really early in this one for whatever reason. And I was also having precognitive dreams several times a week, but I didn't know what those were. I didn't know the concept of a dream can be foreshadowing something that might be coming up. So I was
what was
dreaming
this?
frequently, and it was always the same dream, and that was very odd too. And it would be this storm at sea, and I would see a ship and just, this terrible storm, and all the masts, it was a multi-masted ship, and all the masts would break off, and like all the winches and the cleats would tear off. And it was just all this ripping and tearing, and the boat would just break in two and go down. So, what do you do with something like that? It's like, okay, I'm just having this weird nightmare every night. So I was working at home, and my husband's at work with one car, and our nanny was at the park with our 18-month-old. So I'm home alone, no transportation, and I just can't get comfortable. I just like keep going in the bathroom, like, am I going to be sick? What's with, all this agita? I just couldn't figure it out. And I also had a sense of impending doom. And I've never felt that before or since, but there was just like this premonition of, I just don't feel right. So I went in the bathroom again. And at that point, just this searing pain in my abdomen. I literally looked down because I'm like, okay, this is crazy. I'm alone, but I know someone just stuck a knife in me. And I passed out on the floor. So I think really the only reason I came to was there was this insistent male voice, and he just kept saying, Wendy, you've got to wake up. You've got to call for help now. You need medical help. You've got to call for help now, or you're going home. So I'm like, okay, I'm home alone. Who am I hearing? So I open my eyes. I'm curled up on the floor of the bathroom, and I open my eyes, and the entire bathroom was just filled with this white light. It was like these huge rays of white light, and I could sense 4 or 5 really big figures, like 7, 8 feet tall, and just these rays of light coming from them. And it was beautiful. And immediately I just knew. It's like, oh my gosh, there's angels in my bathroom. My
Mm.
bathroom is filled with angels. So the angel repeated, "You've got to call for help now or you're going to go home." So I responded to him, I understand, but I can't walk. I can't get to the phone, even though it wasn't very far away. I was in the master bath. I just had to get to my nightstand where the landline was. And he said, "If you're willing to try, we can help you," which I thought was really interesting. So I'm like, okay, I got to like get up on my hands and knees or something here. And the minute I did, it was like being gently lifted. It's like I was just like flown into the bedroom to get to the phone. And I'm like still in that same position, kind of on my hands and
Mm.
knees. I'm like trying to reach up. Okay, I can reach the phone. I can get it. And I never thought to call 911. So crazy. But Angel didn't say call 911. He said call for help. So I called my husband at work, which was logical. He's 5 minutes away. He'd never worked so close to home. And miracles continue because I actually get him on the phone. I have never reached my husband at work on the phone. And I give him great credit because all I said was, "I need you to come home now, immediately, drive me to the hospital now." And all he said was, "Okay, I'll be right there." And I could hear him like just slam the phone down. So I just had time to call the doctor's office and tell them what was going on. And they said, "Come to our office immediately." And thankfully, they were located right at the hospital.
Mhm.
So that was perfect too. And they said, "When you get here, don't park the car, don't walk. We're going to meet you with a wheelchair." It's like, okay. So obviously they were seeing some urgency to it. And I just was looking down at, because 10 weeks pregnant, you don't look pregnant. And I'm like looking down and my abdomen is just distending. And I'm like, wow, I don't know what's going on. But my sense when I was in the bathroom was an organ had burst. And it did make me think of all those dreams of like that ship going
Mhm.
down. And I think it was trying to show me like that ripping and tearing and that my ship was about to go down.
It was
So
trying to
that was
express.
the start of it. Is that making sense?
Mhm.
Yeah, so your dreams were trying to express to you the kind of importance of getting to the doctor right then.
I think it was just to like be on the alert, pay attention, don't minimize this, don't blow this off, don't say, "Oh, I'll just be fine.
Mhm.
I'll just keep taking my Lenta," because that was obviously not the answer.
Yeah.
So
Did the
when
dreams
we get
go
to the
away?
hospital, we're whisked right upstairs to the OB's office, and they take me straight into an ultrasound room. And things were surprising there too, because they're trying to do an ultrasound and I can see the screen. I've had ultrasounds before. You can see organs, you can see different things visualized. And all I saw was black. So
Mhm.
Oh,
I even said to the ultrasonographer, "Is that machine working? Is your machine on?" And her response was, "Just sit tight. I'm going to go get the doctor right now." So it's like, ooh.
I
So my
just want
husband
to
and I are kind of looking at each other like, that's not good.
I just want to mention something. Today I learned a new word. Ultra stenographer.
Yes, the person who performs the ultrasounds is your
I
ultrasonographer.
Yes, I learned a word today
There we go. There we
out of
go.
this
Word for the
many
day.
old. Okay. But
So go ahead.
so
The doctor comes in.
the
The doctor
ultrasound was
comes in.
the ultrasound was all black, like it had that kind of
You can't see anything. You can't like even see a shape on the
like
screen that I
normally you
recall.
see, the outline. The only experience I have with ultrasound is, babies. And normally it has that kind of
Pear
fan
shape of
shape.
the uterus.
Mhm.
Yeah, fan shape, and then inside of that you see, the
Highlights,
round, and then
Right,
lowlights. Yeah.
right. Well, we saw nothing. We just saw
mm,
nothing, and my abdomen's continuing to go up, and I am just in so much pain. I'm like curled up. I can't. It was hard to even lay flat enough for them to do the ultrasound. I'm in so much pain. So the doctor comes in and he takes one look at it and just lets me know we need to get you up on the floor now because there's some sort of major abdominal bleed and we can't even see where it's coming from. That's why there's no image because it's just blood. So it's just blocking all our view because you've got
Mm.
such a blood loss going on. So I get admitted up on the floors, and they ask me my blood type, which fortunately I know. And I hear the nurse, they'd also put me in the room right next to the nurse's station, which I was grateful for, but I also knew it meant they were pretty worried.
Mm-hmm.
So I hear her calling the blood bank, and many hospitals in Seattle, we use a central blood bank. We don't all have our own blood. So she's calling and she's finding out, not good news for me, that there'd been a major train collision a couple days earlier, and they didn't have any A negative blood.
Mm.
So that's like leading to like more calls of now I have to call more places to try and find blood. And I'm in the bed, just miserable as can be, and trying different painkillers, which I like don't want to be taking because I'm pregnant, but I'm just so um, you know practically out of my mind with the pain that they've got to do something. So they do get blood after whatever time period. I don't know if it was later that night or when it was. There was a discussion of should we be doing surgery right now? And I didn't want to have surgery because, hello, I'm pregnant. We don't have blood, and we don't know what we're operating on because we haven't been able to visualize it. So, it's just a lot of questions. So the OB agrees and he says, okay, absolutely. That's very valid to, watch and wait. You can't get out of bed, even to go to the bathroom. Let's just see, the body's a miracle. Let's just see if this can, cauterize itself, whatever it is, and just, if you can stop that bleeding, and we'll get some blood hung as soon as we can. So we took that approach for a couple of days, and I'm just watching. I'm going through like bag after bag of
Mm.
blood, and so miserable because the IV from the blood transfusion was hurting so much. And I'm sure, I think they just had to have it. I don't know a lot about blood transfusions, but my sense was like there's a valve on it for like how quickly you transfuse whatever, whether it's glucose or whatever it is. And I think they must have had it turned all the way up because I needed it, but it was just so painful. So, and they're checking doing some blood testing every day, and my hematocrit is dropping and dropping and dropping. And I'm at the point where I just like, I can't focus. I'm like, like passing out. I'll like fall asleep or like borderline passing out right in the middle of a conversation with the doctor or the nurse. And it just, I was concerned. I really didn't care. I could just like feel myself like just kind of like floating away. It was like walking between two worlds is the best way I can describe it. So I think it was on day 3. The OBGYN comes in with a clipboard and with a surgical consent and said, Wendy, we've got to do surgery. You are bleeding out, as measured by the amount of blood that we're transfusing, as well as looking at your abdomen because it's continuing to just distend, get bigger and
Mm.
bigger, and looking at my hematocrit results. So I agreed because there really wasn't another good option at that point. And we agreed that my own OBGYN was going to do the surgery in addition to one of his partners. And there had been discussion, do I go downtown? Do they transfer me? But I was really comfortable with my surgeon. He had done other surgeries for me, the 2 ectopic pregnancies, and I really felt comfortable. I felt I was in good hands, both with the doctor and the hospital. So I chose to stay where I was. And we set the surgery for the next morning. I was going to be first on his schedule. And so that night before surgery, I feel some relief. At least I've made this really hard decision. And I'm trying to relax after dinner. You get your dinner at like 4:30.
Hmm.
I'm trying to just relax for the evening and just like get some strength. And I'm trying to visualize a positive outcome. And the minute I had that thought, I popped right out of my body. I left my body.
Just
And I could just feel myself above my body. And oh my God, did I feel better? Because no more pain, like no more worries. And I did like look over my shoulder because I'm like now in pure soul form, out of the body, having an out of body experience as well as near death experience number two. And I'm looking back at me in the bed, and I did have a funny, humorous moment. I'm like critiquing. I'm like, wow, she's whiter than the sheets. She's really in bad shape. I didn't realize what bad shape she was in. And then I also look and I'm like, my God, could they at least have brushed her hair? She looks like a wild woman. She's been in like, bed for days. And it's not like there's exactly been a mirror or any like, hair washing or brushing going on. So I just look like this crazy woman. And so I had those two thoughts, and I did notice, I'm like, wow, I'm referring to myself as she,
As
in
someone
the
else.
in the
which
yeah, in a different person.
concerned me too. So I know it's me, but I know it's not all of me, and it's not the real me. It's just like, a temporary house. It's like this temporary housing. But so I'm like, okay, she's fine. I'm going up because I was just so drawn to just go up. And I floated pretty quickly just through the ceiling of the hospital room. The minute I do that, I like break out above the hospital into the sky, and I can see the white light of home. And I'm like, oh, I know where I'm going.
So where's the light? Well, I've got lots of questions.
Please.
Okay. When your soul leaves your body, what does your body do? Does it continue to live on as your soul's out and about? Or does just part of your soul leave? Does the soul have anything to do with the body's sustainability? Those are big questions.
Sure.
Is there, now you've heard tell when there's astral projection that there is a thread that kind of,
or silver cord or thread.
that kind of guides between the body and the soul. I guess that way, so you can find your way back. Because
Right.
Hansel and Gretel's your way back.
Crumbs.
Yeah, and then
Yes.
okay, so and then the next question is,
Does it go?
where's
up?
that? Like when you're in the sky, where is that light at? Is it just straight above? Does it have a point like east, north, southwest? I
It
would ask
felt
Betsy this, but she doesn't
straight
know which direction.
It felt straight up above to
Just
me.
straight up.
And I believe my whole soul left my body. And I believe, yes, there is, a lot of people say silver cord, some say red thread. Regardless, I believe there's something that tethers our soul to our body for our body to be viable.
So here's the
But-
takeaway, though, for everyone. Heaven is straight up from Seattle. Straight up from Seattle. So
Exactly.
Elon Musk,
You just go straight up.
when you're going to
Exactly.
Mars, don't launch from Seattle.
Yeah.
You'll miss
Hey,
Mars.
I love Seattle. Heaven straight up.
Listen,
That's perfect.
Seattle's beautiful and very green this time of year. I would agree with that.
It really is. So I leave the body. The body's just in the bed. I'm going up and up. And I did have this thought as I was looking up to the light. And I didn't know a lot about near-death experience. It was 1997. I'm this busy working mom. I'm married. We've got a home. We've got a toddler. Life's really going on 90 miles an hour. And so I had some sense of, I must have seen a TV program or something and had this concept of people that have near-death experiences often go up to the light through a tunnel. They're walking through a tunnel. And I had the thought, oh, please don't make me walk through that tunnel. I am too danged tired. And the moment I had that thought, this pristine escalator came in. There's no one on it. It is perfectly clean. And there's just this light radiating out from it. So it's kind of like, who sang Stairway to Heaven? Which
The
band
escalator
was
to
that?
heaven for those of us
The
who don't want
escalator.
to walk.
Right, right. So I just get this perfect escalator. I'm like, oh, thank you. So I remember getting on it with this big feeling of relief. And at that point, I looked down to see, can I see anything? You know, do I have any form? Do I have any body? What am I in? And it was like a white beach ball size of light. And I knew that was my soul. It was like much bigger than an orb would normally be
So
pictured.
you're looking down at yourself.
I'm looking down at myself, and I can also see I look deflated. I don't look healthy. So I just like lean on the escalator, the railing. I just like lean on that and go, oh, I'm so glad. So it takes me up and up and up. No sense of time, no sense of distance. But the minute I get up to the top and I can kind of see figures just before I get there, and I'm feeling all this love. And the minute I get to the top of the escalator, they're already waiting for me. There's this welcome home party, and the angels that had been in my bathroom were there. And there were other soul family members there. All my grandparents were there. And I could recognize them, which I thought was fascinating because everyone looked exactly the same. They're these like white beach balls, like me. And it's like there's like this like little lightning storm inside each one. They're like so lively and so alive looking.
Yeah,
But I knew exactly who each one was.
in the beach ball form, you recognize them
Yes,
by
I
kind
just
of
knew.
sense or feeling.
I just knew. I knew, oh gosh, there's all four grandparents. There's Nan and Pack, which is my mom's parents, who I knew very well and had lived with for a couple of years. So I absolutely knew them. But there was also my dad's parents there, and I knew who they were, but I never met them this lifetime because they died before I was born. So I thought that was really neat, to just know who everybody was. And also to realize everyone's exactly the same and looks exactly the same. We just like don't need these artificial divisions going on around, skin color and appearance and culture and who lives where. And it doesn't matter a darn. It's not real. It's just this, thing that we've created on Earth where we think there's all these differences and we think there's all this duality.
Did we create the bodies, or is that just our, like the bodies are created as they are, but we
Inhabit them.
we exclude the distinctions between them, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Like who creates those physical bodies?
Yeah, I guess that's what it's kind of what I'm
Well,
saying.
I think the soul chooses. I believe we do pre-life planning
Mm-hmm.
as a soul, and we've got soul family people we might incarnate with. We've got them, planning with us, and it's like, okay, I want to work on these lessons, and I know I'm not great at forgiveness. So will you be my I'm going to make up a simple example. Will you be my first boyfriend, and will you just do me wrong?
Oh,
I feel like we plan some of this because when people do things that we feel are hard to forgive or even unforgivable, well, there's your opportunity for your lesson. And don't be a victim, because guess who asked for it? Guess who that brave soul is that asked for that lesson?
well,
That's my take on it.
we've heard this before, and I want to leave a note to myself for my next go round. Is I'm really not a good race car driver / professional Sunday morning TV fisherman.
Okay.
And
So you want
Okay.
to practice that your next go
my
round.
next go round, I want to be a race car driver.
There we go.
And on Sunday
we go.
mornings, I want to do the fishing TVs.
There we go. And make sure that you are an excellent race car driver.
Yeah,
Because
you know what? I'll settle for, fourth place. I mean, I don't have to
but
pop
come
the
on.
champagne.
How long do you want to
every time.
live?
Yeah.
So when you get up there, are you thinking at all about your mortal body that you've left
No.
behind?
No, completely focused on what's right in front of me, one step off the escalator, and I am getting this huge group hug. And I cannot tell you what that felt like because it was unconditional. And we don't get unconditional love very often on Earth. I mean, maybe when you're looking at your newborn and holding your newborn in your arms, I think that can be maybe the closest we get to that. Or maybe some people are evolved enough that they're very well balanced in their own energy and that they can love with no expectation. But most people love conditionally. I love you. I expect to hear that from you in return. You know, it's more of like this tit for tat type thing. So I'm getting this unconditional love, this huge, huge group hug from all of them. They were clearly there waiting for me. They knew I was coming up the escalator. And the same male angel that had addressed me in my bathroom a few days earlier, he said, "Welcome home. We're so glad to have you here. You've done nothing wrong. We want you to know you're absolutely welcome to stay. You can stay. It is your choice. But you need to know that you're going to need to go back quite quickly if you want to go back. So you're going to need to make the decision quickly because the body won't be viable for very long and that option will be gone."
So the body
So-
does start to die when.
That's what he told me.
Is that
And
a hazard that's with the astral projection as well, that the body can start to die if you stay away too long?
I believe.
Or is it
it's-
just when you go to the
I
other?
happen to be a conscious astral traveler.
Mhm.
My belief is that we leave our bodies when we're meditating, when we're sleeping at night, and that's unconscious. And you know, it's just it's just like respiration. You don't think about breathing. You don't think about flowing your blood. You know, all through. There's just you know automatic wonderful physiology going on that serves us. So I feel like that astral projection has the same like checks and balances to it. You know, sometimes you like startle yourself when you come back and you like jerk in your sleep.
Mhm.
I think that can be the body. Maybe you had like a little bit of a rough landing with the soul coming back in. You know, the plane skipped on the runway once, coming back in. But what the angel wanted me to know was he said he could tell me a couple things for me to make that decision right then and there. And he wanted me to know I was going to have a successful surgery. He said, "It will be successful tomorrow if you choose to go back. You will recover fully from it. And I also want you to know your baby will be born healthy." Those were two huge pieces of information. So I was really grateful for that. And I also felt grateful that I was being given such a choice. It was so respectful if I wanted to go back or not. Because I didn't know a lot about NDEs at that time because it was 97. But I've since heard from a lot of NDEers say, "Well, I got like shoved back in my body. I got pushed. I didn't have a choice. I was just told, you're not done. Get back in there." You know, just whereas I was given a choice. The angel added a third thing that gave me pause. And what he said was, if you do choose to go back, I need you to know that life is going to be very difficult, probably for many years, because you are not on your life path. So I immediately say, "Oh my gosh, I want to do the right thing. I want to be on my right path. You know, that's not cool. Please tell me, what's my path? What am I supposed to be doing? I'm 36 years old. You're telling me I'm not on my path?" And he just gently shook his head. So I'm like, "Oh gosh." And so I'm like looking around at the others because I thought, okay, someone else is going to give, right? You know, you can get it out of someone else in the group.
Anybody?
They just started being silly. I mean, they were so they were just so supportive and so loving. There was no malice, there was no meanness to it, but just like, they're putting like duct tape over their mouths. They're like locking the key and throwing the key away. They're just being silly. It's like, oh,
So they
clearly I
can
gotta figure this out on my own.
so they can kind of play around like that. They
Absolutely. I feel that spirit, I feel the divine, it has such a sense of humor because it
Mhm.
just like
Yeah,
lightens us up.
hilarious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They're often very silly like that. I've heard a lot of people describe, and I get to see them in client sessions because I go home with people. We do like a mini between lives, which is a near-death experience without the drama and trauma of almost dying. Let's just skip that part.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
the angel says, "What do you want to do?" That's the three things I can tell you. What do you want to do? And the minute he said that to me, I said, "Oh, I'm going back." Because all I could see was my toddler's face.
Yeah.
And she was just adorable. And it just like filled my whole vision. It's like I didn't try and look at home anymore because until then I'd been trying to like kind of like jump and like see over their shoulder and like because I was like so drawn to go back to the light. But the minute I knew those three things and he refocused me, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I'm going back for my children." So everyone gave me another huge group hug. The second time they did that, I caught on. It wasn't just love. It was for me to feel the support and wisdom and to know that I really wasn't alone in my life the way I had felt before that. It was just, there was
Mhm.
a different level of support for me. And I also could feel energy. I could feel so much energy passing into me as they all held me. And I'm not sure I would have survived that surgery otherwise, because I just was like, my gas tank was below empty from
So they
having
kind
been.
of bolstered you. They gave you
Yes,
strength.
yes, exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. So I said, "Okay, I want to go back." So they're like, "Great." And, we finish the hug and I get back down the escalator and I'm kind of like waving over my shoulder, like looking back at them. And they're all like cheerleading, like, "You can do it,
Mhm.
go on, you'll figure it out. Go have your best life." And I just go down the escalator and I just pop back. I see my body right there laying in the bed. And it's like, "Oh, okay, there I am." And I just pop back in. It's just that easy.
Now, when
And
you
I
slid into your body after being gone for that period of time, did your body jump? And then, what did it feel like to go from the feeling of bliss to
Back
re-enter
to the pain.
a body that's in pain and
it
struggling?
it felt um normal. I felt so much better than when I had popped out. It's just I
Mm.
felt peaceful. And I hadn't felt any peace for quite a few days.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So, but just to know that the surgery was going to be successful, because the surgery had never been performed at the hospital to my knowledge. And the OB said, "Oh my gosh, I'm researching this. I've been, calling colleagues all over." He said, "I found like one reference to what we think might be going on, but it's really pretty rare. So we're just going to have to, get in there and just take care of whatever needs taking care of." So it was like they were operating a little bit blind, and but I just felt so much more peaceful and so much more ready for that surgery the next day. And obviously, I did have a successful surgery. It was a couple of hours. And what turned out to have happened, they must have had imaging equipment in the OR. And what the my OB/GYN told me was what actually happened was your uterus ruptured. It
Mm.
was the top of the uterus, something
Mm.
called the fundus, fundus, and that is an aorta. So
Mm.
Mm.
that's why
So you were
so
filling
much
up with
blood
blood.
loss. Right.
Oh.
That's why I was just pooling with this blood. It wasn't like a gallbladder, because they were kind of hoping maybe it was something, more
Or an
minor like that.
appendix or something
Appendix,
that everyone's
exactly. But it was the
where
uterus.
and that's why the ultra stenographer um all it
Good
saw
job.
was
Good job.
I know I pulled that one out of the back 40. That's why all it saw was black because your uterus had increased in
had ruptured,
size.
and it was just all this, yeah, it was just all this blood.
Oh.
And the OB said, we're fortunate in the sense of, if this had to happen at all, at least you were only 10 weeks pregnant. And of course, the fetus is such a
Mm-hmm.
tiny peanut
Yeah.
at that point. And he said, we had imaging, on the baby and on you the whole time. And we just did our best to stay away. And he says, luckily, your fetus was just, tucked way down deep. And we were, a couple inches away up at the top of the uterus.
Hmm.
So I had a successful surgical repair of the uterus. So I recover in the hospital for a few days and go home, just feeling grateful that the ordeal's behind us in a way, but it's 6 weeks of essentially bed rest at home. And the bigger issue was, okay, think of that profound growth and all that pressure on the uterus to go full term in a
Mm-hmm.
pregnancy.
Now it's
So
got an
there was
incision and
concern, is
mm-hmm.
this going to hold?
And also,
Or
you've got concern because some
Yeah, did you think this was
angel
a
balls
dream?
said you've got to change your life. You're doing it
I've
wrong.
got concerns on multiple accounts. I've got to recover. Is this baby going to be okay? I've
Hmm.
had morphine. I've had blood transfusions. I've had uterine surgery all while pregnant. This is not on the well baby checklist.
No.
It's
Yeah.
like, so, I go home honestly to have high anxiety for the next, I'm 10 weeks, 40 weeks. She was delivered at 39 weeks. I go home to have anxiety for a lot of weeks, a lot of
Yeah.
months. And I do get better though, after the 6 weeks, kind of right on schedule. I go back to work, and it's a job I love. I'd been there about 3 years, glowing performance reviews. Everyone's so thrilled to have me back to work. So this is all looking good. And then after I'm at work for about 6 weeks, I get called into my boss's office on a Friday afternoon. I don't think a thing about it. I love my boss. He's great. I thought he's going to, wish me a happy weekend or tell me something for next week that we need to work on. I don't think a thing about it till I walk in his office. I see his face, I see his energy, and I see human resources rep sitting with him with a file on the table. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, I know what this is. It's called a layoff. And they both just looked so dejected. I actually felt sorry for them. Studies have proved it is harder to lay someone off than it is to be laid off. And here they know I'm pregnant. Here they know I'm just back to work, and I've just gone through this really traumatic experience. But I get laid off. So I go home to lick my wounds for the weekend, and file for unemployment and start to assess where to job search. Obviously tell my husband, tell our nanny. Our daughter's too young to understand. And part of what was so hard with that layoff was, of course, we really count on the income. I'm not working for the joy of the experience.
Right.
We had just purchased a new house maybe a year before that. So we've got a big mortgage. We had just purchased a minivan because we're expecting the second baby. We've got a full-time nanny. We can't let her go. She's on a contract. And oh, by the way, I held the health insurance for the whole family.
Mm.
So we've lost that too. So I'm like, crap, how am I supposed to deliver? I now have no insurance. So there's just a lot on my mind from that layoff. It was pretty devastating timing. So I'm looking for a job, but I'm not feeling well. I don't look well. I'm obviously looking pregnant by this point, and things are just not going terrific. So literally a week later to the day, my husband comes home from work on a Friday, and he's a couple hours late and had not called, which was just really weird. And so he comes in like maybe 8:30 at night. And I can just see the weight of the world on his shoulders as he walks in the door. And I said, oh my gosh, what's wrong? You're, really late tonight. You doing okay? And he said, I have something really hard to tell you. I said, okay, what's going on? we'll figure it out. And his response is, we've just gone to payless paydays. So I'm like looking at him.
What was your husband doing for work?
I'm like, does not compute.
Was he
Payless
was he
payday.
an officer in
What does that mean?
the Russian army at the fall of the USSR? I mean, what's a payless
He
payday?
was one of 5 owners of a software company, and
Oh,
they had about 100 employees. So what he meant by payless payday
was
was,
the owners don't get
guess
paid.
what? We've just tanked.
Mm.
And he said we've laid off almost everyone in the company, and I am going to need to keep going to work, though. I'm going to be working really long hours because I'm going to have to do programming and all kinds of stuff I don't normally do because we've got contracts we've already sold, and we've got to deliver the jobs because we need our reputation and we need to try and sell the company and also figure out how can we wrap up our lease. There's just like a million things to take care of when you suddenly are closing a company like that you hadn't planned on closing. So I'm like, okay, now I get what payless payday is. I know I didn't like that term.
Terrible
And
idea.
he's just not up for discussing it. He's like made these decisions. And I said, okay, so I realize this just happened today and you must be reeling with this, but have you filed for unemployment? Because, my unemployment just got approved and we need you to file for yours. And he just looks at me. He's like, there's no unemployment. I'm self-employed. So there's not going to be any unemployment. So now I'm looking like this. It's like, okay, we just went from 2 incomes in 2 great jobs with benefits and full health insurance for the family to unemployment only. And there's 4 of us because there's me, my husband, our daughter, I'm pregnant, and our nanny in the one household. In the house that we now can't afford, in the van that we now can't afford. So my husband's made his decision. Like I said, he's going to be going to work and doing everything and trying to close up shop, trying to get the place sold. So the company sold. So he asks me, he's like, I need you to step to the plate. You've got to take care of the family finances. You've got to keep our ship afloat. I'm like, oh yeah, back to that ship again. So I'm going down.
Oh.
Got to keep our ship afloat. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like now looking for a part-time job, any job, just trying to think of different things. He won't agree to even take a part-time job, says, nope, not possible. So it's like, okay. So I'm doing, all the things you do, like, okay, we got to cut expenses. Can we use some credit cards? We're pulling out of savings. Can we defer? I'm doing all the things you have to do. And I make a list of our expenses. Okay, let me call the lender. So he and I talk it over. He says, yeah, good idea. Call the lender. Let's not be passive about this. See if you can negotiate something. Can we make partial payments? Can we skip a payment? Let them know what's going on. So I call the bank, the home lender, and their response is, thanks for letting us know. We will be foreclosing as soon as legally possible, as soon as you start missing payments. Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
makes
wow.
it easier to start the paperwork,
Wasn't expecting that response. So I guess I was naive.
Mm-hmm.
Same exact conversation with the lender for the van. And they said, as soon as you miss payments, thanks for letting us know. We'll be repossessing. So now it's like our back is really to the wall. We can't, you can't take out more credit cards. Neither of us is working. And we didn't have an option of getting another loan on the home. It was such a new home.
Yeah.
And just no equity in it. And so it's like, wow. So at that point, we laid out all our options, and our only option left was to go to Bank of Mom. And I'm very forever grateful to my mother because she scraped hard, and it wasn't easy, but she took care of us and helped make up the shortfall each month of whatever bills I could not pay that had to be paid. And she just took care of things for us until we were both back to work. So Some
You
really
hear
good
that?
things did come up along the way. Again, no insurance. I'm trying to figure out what do I do about that.
Hold
Is
hold
there
on
any kind of
hold on a
insurance I can
second.
get?
There's a vibration coming through.
What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. My phone is ringing.
Oh.
It's on vibrate, but I can't
I'm
get
sitting there
it turned
going,
off.
something's going on.
That's the
Yeah.
vibration.
So,
Okay.
had you told your husband about all of your experiences at this point?
I didn't know how to process them. That whole week was so strange and just so weird,
Mm.
and he was barely at the hospital. We'd agreed we weren't going to bring our toddler in. I didn't want her to see me like that. I was really afraid it was going to scare her.
And
So we agreed, nope, she's not going to come to the hospital. You just go to work and take care of her in the evening. So our nannies got her during the day, but
So, you didn't have a lot of experience with near-death experience at the time. What
no.
did you think all this was?
I knew they were near death experiences. I knew I had been very fortunate. I knew I had been helped profoundly. And I also was like catching on to, I don't want to use the word rules, but I believe we need to ask our guides for help, unless it's an emergency. And it really stuck with me what the angel said, when I was in the bathroom. And he said, you just need to be willing to try, and then we can help you. And it's kind of like hearing in my head, oh, there's some angel rules.
so if I buy a race car, they will come. I
That's
can't
that's
I
Jared's
can't
takeaway.
afford a race car, so if I buy a go-kart.
There,
So
maybe.
what
Maybe you
was
can be like the stellar go-kart, famous. Maybe it
yeah,
should be Italian,
I
something
just
really
have to
jazzy.
start the national go-kart racing
There you
race.
go.
Uh,
There you go.
So what was the wrong life path you were on? And
The
what did
the
you have to
wrong
adjust?
the life path I was not on was, I just, spirituality wasn't on my plate. It wasn't part of my life. Just this casual Christian. I did believe in God. I did believe Jesus was his son. But I didn't go a lot further than that with it. I just didn't have this, this feeling like I was meant. If you had told me in 1997, you're supposed to be a spiritual teacher, you're supposed to become a Reiki master energy healer, you're
Mm.
supposed to talk on radio about this, you're supposed to write books about this, you're supposed to train and become a past life regressionist and help people with their spiritual awakening, I would have fallen down on the floor laughing, because it would have been like, does not compute, does not compute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wouldn't have known what to do with that information. So it just was not being on the life path of helping people with their spiritual awakenings. So I just, had to, like many of us do, had to just, flounder around and not have a clue and make mistakes and get on wrong paths and go, okay, that's not working, redirect here, try something else, and
Mm-hmm.
just get it squared away until it starts to come together.
Did you find that
So,
you had premonition dreams beyond that? Like other ones? Or was that your only?
good question. It didn't come so much through dreams, but it turns out I'm extremely clairaudient. I hear my guides really, really well. And I think it truly started that day in the bathroom, because I could hear that angel just so well. And, then again, could hear them when I went home. I heard them again when I was in the pediatrician's office. I was maybe 6 months pregnant by then, still no health insurance, stressed to the max. And I'm sitting in the pediatrician's office just trying to keep my daughter, quiet and happy while we're waiting for our visit. And I heard the angel say, look, look. And I'm like, okay, I'm like looking all, okay, my child's okay. Everybody else's kid's okay. What am I looking at? And I saw suddenly, on like a little side table in the corner of the room, I saw this little brochure, and it said WIC. I had no idea what that was. And, but
Oh.
the minute I said, that? Are you talking about that? I'm like having this conversation in my head. And he's like, yes, go grab that brochure. So I, pick up Tara and waddle at that point over there, grab this brochure and like stuff it in the diaper bag to read at home. Because we got, called in for our visit. And I'm like, I have no idea what WIC is. It's women, infants, and children.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
Very
able to
common
qualify for health insurance, not only for me, but for my daughter. And it
Well,
would
yeah.
cover the pregnancy.
Health insurance, the pregnancy, it aids with
Nutrition.
the expensive baby foods, and
Yes,
it does so
it was
much.
a big deal. And it was perfect, for people like us, because we did own a home. So we didn't qualify for a lot of programs,
Mhm.
but we did qualify for that. And it also did help us with food, as you mentioned. So, and that was needed, and, very appreciated. So I, did my shopping with the darn WIC coupons, feeling grateful
Mhm.
and embarrassed at the same time.
So
It
It,
when you first ventured into the realm of spirituality, did you just know instantly, okay, I found it. Here it is, my purpose.
where it came up, so I deliver, and I'm very, very fortunate because here I am going in basically in Medicaid to this lovely community hospital, and they said, we're going to give you your own nurse. Because of what happened and because you are high risk, because we are afraid, we don't want that baby
oh yeah.
going up into your heart and lungs so we're giving you one-on-one nursing. So I was just floored. I was so grateful for that. So she's born, she's healthy, again, as the angel told me. So grateful for that. But I hadn't been home, so I deliver on a Friday, go home on Saturday. Don't you love those drive-through deliveries?
Mm-hmm.
And
23 hours.
I
You're
think
out
our
the door.
sister wasn't our sister's fastest delivery. She was home like 17 minutes later, mopping the floor or something. I seem to remember that. I don't even know if they put her on a gurney. I think she just.
it's just crazy. And I mean, some people are built for it. I was not.
And
It
you
was
wouldn't
just I
think she
was
would
like,
be. She's, I don't know, 4'2". How tall is she? She's a little person. I. Can you say midget still? Is that a no word?
She's not a little person. She's
But
just little.
anyways, yeah, she coughed a baby out, was home. I mean, sun came up, sun went down. She went to the hospital and came home before it did both
Mhm.
those things. And
that's amazing.
was up and just moving around, but I think it was
Wow.
just grit and determination or
Really
something.
depends on the person.
Youth. It's youth.
Youth,
So-
yeah. Me, if I
Well-
had a baby, I would be visiting my balls of light friends.
There you go. There you go. Well, we all know that the human race would not continue if men were
That's
in
right.
charge of labor and delivery.
Hell, if prior to the making of the baby, someone handed a brand new baby to men just to hold on to for 5 minutes,
The human race would
human
end there.
race would end. He'd be like,
It would.
"This
It
does
would.
this."
Mhm.
Yeah, no.
That's why those wonderful programs in high school, now they've got all the fancy babies and it like
Mhm.
records how long the baby. It used to be they gave them a sack of flour,
I took home a
and you're
sack of flour.
responsible for having the sack of flour not there over the weekend. Used to be pretty low tech.
They didn't have
But-
that stuff when I went through, did they?
Yeah. You just didn't take any of the classes that it applied
Or
to.
did I leave it at school? Probably at my desk. Probably
Abandoned the
It's
baby.
still in the locker somewhere.
open the locker up 2 years later. There's like a bag of flour with a face on it.
So I'm barely home from the hospital, and my husband goes back to work on Monday. And such a mixed blessing, thrilled that we've found our way back. He got the company sold, so he's going back to work. But now I'm like, oh, I got this like 1 day old, and there you go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was holding her, and like I said, had not been home more than a day or two. And again, clear as day, I heard the angel, I heard this guide say, your contract with your husband is complete.
Oh.
So your contract was just to make the
Exactly.
2 other people?
You're smarter than I was.
And to go
That-
through the trial of
that took me years to figure out, but I believe my soul contract with my former husband was to have a long-term marriage that we would both really learn from and grow through, and to have beautiful children, R-E-N,
So
plural.
what did you do with that information? Were you like, what? Excuse me?
I did. I argued, I hissed, I fought, I spit. I said, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me." Only much more colorfully in French and English both. But it's like, no, that's just
I've got a
no,
brand
that's
new
wrong.
baby. What do you
No,
mean?
Yeah.
that's wrong. Exactly. We just had a baby. You've got to be kidding me. And I did not want to. I did not want to divorce. It's like we had worked really hard on our marriage. We were together 15 years, and I just a lot of divorces in my family, and I just, had gone into this very thoughtfully, as had he. I was 28 when we got married and he was 30. So it's not like we rushed into this in high school. So it but it just I knew. I just knew. So I stayed until our youngest was in school full time. And we just did, our really best to be good to each other and to be great parents and just to be kind. But it wasn't there. The
Did he
connection
feel
was
the
not
same
there.
way?
I don't know. I don't know. He's very introverted. He's a low communicator. We're
Oh,
like
he's a computer programmer, you said?
Mhm.
yeah,
We
we're
got it.
pretty direct opposites. So
Yeah.
I'm like the high expressive, and he's like the, oh wow, too many words.
Did you ever think of getting those little kid blocks with the letters on them? I've heard that they can sometimes spell a word out or two. Or maybe have him express it in binary.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
So did you ever share with him? I mean, since all of this, have you ever shared with him, this experience?
He wouldn't be open to it would not serve him. It wouldn't I don't feel it would be kind to him. So, I think the world of him as the father of my children. I'm so glad we met. I'm so glad we married. I'm really glad for, those 18 years together, including engagement and dating and marriage. But I'm proud of who we both became as co-parents, because when we divorced, the kids were 6 and 8. So we knew we were getting ready for long haul trucking, to get them all the way through college, and to do that respectfully from 2 houses. And we did a 50-50 shared schedule. So you've really got to cooperate, and
man.
you've really got to help.
Lots
And
of sacrifice.
It's a lot of sacrifice. And we did set ground rules with each other and said, I'm never going to say anything against you or anything poor about you in front of the kids. If we have anything we need to talk about as parents, we're going to do it the two of us together alone without the kids there. We're not going to put the kids in the middle. We're not going to do this nonsense of, well, tell your father this. And, we're not going to be passive aggressive about this. And we did also ask the kids too, ask the children, because of course they're just, shocked and very upset initially. And what does that mean to me? Where am I going to live? Who's going to live in what house? Can I still see my friends? Can I still go to Girl Scouts? Do I have the same teacher? They had a million questions, and we were pretty prepared for that. So that was good. And we did say to them both, let's give you whatever we can. You need some what's in it for me. You need some gain through this. So name, what's important to you, and let's see if we can make it happen. So one of them said, I still want to do the annual camping trip. I want everybody to go on the annual camping trip. So we did. And guess what? We camped side by side. Literally got 2 campsites.
And that's good. I mean, I understand it's hard when there's feelings are hurt and expectations aren't met, but if you can revert back to who you were before you dated, when you initially met, at least to that common ground for the children, and understand. I mean, when you said we promised we wouldn't talk bad about each other in front of the children, there is nothing more important than that. That is
Absolutely.
because that's half of them,
Exactly.
regardless. And so you don't want to
Exactly.
tell
And
them,
everyone's going to lose.
yeah, you don't want to say the
So,
other half of you is this. You want to
exactly.
reinforce
Exactly.
positive.
And
So
we did every holiday together. We didn't divide it up like, oh, if you're going to the softball game, then I can't go.
Yeah,
It's like, come on, the adults need to put their big girl, big boy pants on.
yeah,
Just, be adults.
that's
So that's what we
outstanding.
tried to do.
Well,
so
that shows your maturity.
these soul contracts,
Yes,
are
that's
they finite?
yeah. Are they finite? Are they
Are they
common?
finite in the sense of do they never end or can they not be changed? What
Yeah,
do you mean
yeah.
by finite?
Both. Do the soul families that we have, are they the same? And then some people come in, some people come out, or souls come in, come out. Or are we adding to our soul family and releasing people from our soul family in these
Sure,
connections?
sure. I believe soul families tend to reincarnate together many times. Doesn't mean everyone's there. And also we change roles. Your mother might be now your sister or your daughter or your best friend or that cranky neighbor or that, boss from Hades or, whatever it is.
Mm.
We play different roles, but certain people from the group incarnate. I also believe, based on my own experience and client experiences, what they're noticing as we do sessions together, is those groups can change over time because certain people might raise their vibration, so to speak, like learn their lessons more quickly.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So maybe they skip a grade in grade school or high
yeah.
school or college or whatever
See,
your analogy is here.
Oh.
I know my vibrations about the speed of your phone ringing a minute ago.
Bucka, 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 bucka,
Well,
bucka.
I don't know, it's a pretty good iPhone.
Phone. But where other people has a vibration that has a nice steady tune, mine chucks and coughs like an old Model A.
There you go. There you go. There you go. So, and my take on the contracts is, I believe that some contracts we do complete just because we're able to learn the lessons, do all the pieces and parts, and it just gets finished, and then there you go.
So
That's done.
you
So
think that
how
was the sole contract with your ex-husband was to
I think it was just that simple, was
produce
to have a
your
long-term
children?
marriage we would both learn from and grow through, and to have beautiful children
Was
together.
was that contract, do you think it was written in there that we would walk away in the end of that, or that after
I
that the
think that was the end
contract
of the
was done?
contract, so then we have a choice from there. I mean, I made the choice to stay, because I felt it was the right thing to do for the family. I was not happy, but I took one for the team for the next
Hmm.
6 years.
so
And then it just got to the point where, I knew it wasn't sustainable. There the dreams came back in again. I kept having this recurring dream, and every time I woke up, I'm like, what was that Excel spreadsheet? I can't quite read the name of it.
You were
I'm
dreaming an Excel spreadsheet?
dreaming an Excel spreadsheet. Do you know what it was? It was me
It's
dividing our assets.
oh man, the only thing worse I think would be to dream a PowerPoint presentation.
Those are more colorful, but I was dreaming.
Obviously you weren't in the
and this was
military.
prior to the divorce?
It was prior to the divorce. That was when it was at the point where I had to tell him. So we just went out for dinner, had a babysitter, and I just told him because I wanted to, give him privacy away from the home. And I just told him as gently as I could. I think he sensed it because he would not stop talking during dinner. That had never happened before. And the waiter is trying to give our table away because the restaurant is really unusually busy. I'm like dragging out eating my dessert because I haven't been able to get a word in. It's the first and last time that ever happened. I think he
Hmm.
just sensed it.
He
So
was nervous, agitated
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah.
this question, I think I whenever we talk about soul contracts and soul families, I always think about violent crime. because if someone chooses to end someone else's life, how does that affect their soul contract? Or would
That's a
they
really
even
tough
be able
one.
to end their life?
Would that be a part of their soul contract?
Can I come back to that one in a minute? Because let's
Yeah.
set the stage for normal soul contracts. So the purpose is they're simply agreements we make before we incarnate. And the idea is we're going to have an agreement. It might be as simple as I'm going to meet you, I'm going to help you with this project, whatever it might be, or I'm going to wake you up spiritually, whatever the contract is. It can be anything. So, many of them are successfully filled. There's also this big category of contracts that make no danged sense. Because I really think something has gone wrong in the human condition. And I believe people are carrying all these contracts with them that don't serve them. Almost every single client I work with, when we take a look at it, toward the end of their session, and I'll ask, are there any contracts that do not serve, Jennifer in her present life now? And her guide speaking through her, or Jennifer's higher self in this example, will say, oh yeah, this one makes no sense. I'm like, well, great. Can we just learn the lesson and end it? It's a big deal to have people carrying all these contracts that don't make sense anymore. I went through a big stage of that because fortunately, one of the spiritual teachers that I was working with as a student, she caught on and she said, it just seems like you're getting pulled willy-nilly all over the place. I said, yeah, I know I have mushy boundaries. I know I need better boundaries. I know I need to learn discernment. She said, well, I think it's compounded by, it feels like you have a bunch of contracts that don't make sense. So we looked at it. We asked my higher self and guides, and they're like, oh yeah, there is tons of them. So she had me take out a sheet of paper, like a big, legal sheet of paper. And she said, write on it, contracts complete, meaning contracts that just didn't serve me to learn a lesson or, to progress in my life. And she said, now just date it and sign it and put it on your home altar. So I did. I then had the craziest 30 days. The next 30 days, it was insane. People were coming out of the woodwork saying, oh, I need you to do this for me, and I expect you to do that. And the opposite was true too. People were like, oh, can I help you with that? Can I take you to dinner? Oh, here's this present. And I'm like, what is going on? So it was this intense period. For me, it was 30 days. Usually I can help clients figure it out right in session, that one session. But evidently I had a boatload of them that didn't make sense. So once I went through that 30-day period, things got a lot better in life. So now will you ask me your hard exception brain-burning question now that we've done the simpler ones?
Okay, well, I want to go off on a tangent real quick.
Well, it's your show. You get to
There
Both of you.
are some amazing human
feel the
beings
perks.
that have existed. And I wonder if it was soul contract. Mr. Carrier that invented the air conditioner.
Yes.
Was that on soul? The guy who invented the Q-tip. Think about that. If that wasn't a soul contract, he went above and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
The man that invented flushable toilets.
Again.
Heroes all. These guys, I mean, honestly, these guys, you know how in North Korea you got to have a picture of the dear leader and the dear leader's shit offspring and his shit offspring? We should have to have pictures of them. Now, we know who invented the air conditioner. The other two guys we don't know.
The toilet, I think we do know.
Well, John J. Crapper, I think.
I was going to say crapper, and the flush box used to be halfway up toward the ceiling.
Yeah, but
it used to be so high.
I think that's a myth that it was John J.
No,
Crapper.
I've seen them. I've seen them in the Seattle
was his name
Underground
really
tours.
Crapper?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we exemplify him forever. One of the greatest minds. Einstein pales in comparison. And we take his last name, that beautiful, honorable last name.
Going to the crapper.
And make fun of it. But
yes, humans have devolved. We are the issue. Humanity's
low vibration.
Yes.
It's not just this
And I'm a
beautiful
part of that.
convenience that we take for granted until we go camping for the weekend
Oh.
or on a hike and can't find a bathroom. And we women especially
Yeah.
really appreciate the bathroom because we
The
don't have the easy
hygiene.
outdoor plumbing.
Where am I going to look at my phone at and play a game? I mean, come on. I can't just lean up against
But
the tree. It's not the
think
same.
of the difference in sanitation.
Yeah.
I mean, it was only a
Yeah.
couple hundred years ago that the refuse was just being poured in chamber pots out into the street onto the head of whatever hapless person was walking by below. And think of how the disease was just spread because people didn't understand the sanitation and there was nothing. It's a big deal.
You know, they talk about the polio vaccine, but what they don't talk about is the long spread of flushable toilets. And I think those did as much for polio because you look at where polio is not, and that's where toilets flush. Because they've still got
Sanitation.
polio anywhere, and polio, I guess, is waterborne. And they've still got polio in those geographical areas that don't flush toilets.
Right. Right.
So
And-
my burning question was violent crime.
Yes.
Yes.
And how does violent crime, if you are murdered,
Would that be a part of a contract?
is that part of your contract? And I understand that it may be part of your family's contract as well, the family of the murdered individual, to
like a karmic
to-
energy.
Or
to
a
go
lesson
through it
to learn.
to maybe it's forgiveness that they're learning, maybe
Sure.
it's
My
tolerance.
honest answer is I don't know. I have not worked with any clients. I've not had direct experience where something like a murder or something that violent, but I simply don't know. There's also so much goes on that is nothing to do with the contract.
Right.
When
So much
we're
free
on the
will.
other side, we've got like our superhero capes on, like I can do anything, and I want to clear all my karma in this lifetime, and I want to solve world poverty, and oh, by the way, win a Nobel Prize and be a really great looking race car driver. So, we're like so ambitious. And I think our guides try and calm us down of, you're really biting off a lot there. Are you sure you've got enough support? Are you sure you're taking enough energy? Because this is going to be different when you get there. So I think some people
Like every
simply
person on
can't
Survivor.
handle it. Mental illness does come up. I don't know whether that's always planned.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it could be planned to
Because
be
then you
something
look at
to
it-
overcome.
Like, what did Stalin do? Stalin sat up there and sat with his guides and says, I want to know what it's like to order the death of 32 million people on the low end. Maybe
Yeah.
When
upwards of
it's-
And Mao's sitting next to him going, please. And Mao says, I want to push it between 50 and 80. And then
Right.
Pol Pot says, I want to see what it's like to take a quarter of my population out on the low end and a third on the high.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
those are insane numbers.
And we don't know. We don't know what's happened to those souls who then participated in those atrocities and just that extinguishing of human life. Were they so damaged? Did they not heal enough at home? Did things just go terribly wrong once they were here? Or let's take Hitler. Hitler did not do this on his own. We had massive amounts of people who didn't do the right thing
collectively.
So was Hitler perhaps playing a very challenging role?
Yeah, could that have been a
the rest of us were
contract?
the failures that didn't rise up from that?
Could that have been
boy.
a contract with the 6 million victims of him?
Right.
Where that
right.
I don't know. That's a horrible thing to think about. Maybe
Yeah, they're really
we
they're
shouldn't
really
have taken
big
it there. But yeah,
questions.
that's a huge thing. But have you seen the show Little Nicky? Wasn't that the one where it says I've got
I
an
haven't.
appointment with Hitler and he's standing there holding a pineapple, and the thing is that, Hitler gets an enema with the pineapple. Like
Oh,
in the
no,
in the
I
whole
haven't seen it.
You guys should watch it. I mean, it's
sounds terrible.
historical. Correct.
So they're great questions. And some things you can get the answers to once you are good at knowing how to connect with your own higher self, balance your energy, talk with your own guides, once you know how to muscle test. For instance, the first time I shared the story of my near-death experience, which was about 3 years ago, so it was like 20
That's the first
years
time.
in the past. I had never spoken about it. And that host asked me, was it planned? Did you plan to have the NDE?
Oh, yeah.
And, which was a great question.
Maybe that was your opening. Yeah.
I
maybe.
never thought about. So I was able to ask my guides, right then and there while we were on air. And I just closed my eyes and asked them. And what they said was, no, it wasn't planned. It was simply, an unknown structural abnormality. Human bodies are miracles, but they're not perfect. And they do have things go wrong, which you may or may not recover from. So they said it just was a structural abnormality. It just happened. So it wasn't planned.
We both tried past life regression, and Betsy had a substantial experience, and I, of course, did not, because this is my first go-around. Last time I was a cockroach or something.
No, she believes that Jared went to the life between lives, which she said is not normal your first time.
Oh,
but
it's entirely possible.
But she
said, it can be disorienting.
But she said that she believed that that's what he experienced.
I thought for sure I would go into past life, and I'd be crawling behind a cupboard, and a light would come on, and I'd scurry, and then I'd eat a
Mine was
none of that happened.
None of that happened. Mine was awesome. So if someone, to kind of close the show up, if someone has had a near-death experience, what do they do with this information?
It is so great to look for a supportive organization if you're feeling the need. There is IANDS, for instance, IANDS, which is the International Association of Near-Death Studies. And they have local support groups, chapters. The Seattle one happens to be the oldest in the country. It's over 40 years old. So you can get support. And during COVID, there's so many quality things via Zoom. So you can find organizations like that. There's also NDERF, NDERF, which is another near-death experience group. So you can get really good quality, information, get support. You can talk to people, because having someone help you make sense of what's really unfathomable, is that a word? What's so hard to fathom is really, that can really help you make sense of it more quickly, and just not have to go through, so much stress and feeling so alone when you talk to someone else. And nowadays, there's just, it's wonderful. There's so many podcasts. There's a lot of NDE panels. I've got one coming up this Saturday. I'm one of 4 near-death experiencers, and there's programs. I mean, Netflix has Surviving Death, and that's a great docu-series. There's really good information on that. Doesn't mean you're going to agree with all of it or relate with all of it. That's not the point. But it's well researched. It's filmed, in many countries. A lot of leading experts in multiple areas.
There's no reason why one near-death has to be exactly like another. They could end up being...
No, they're as unique as our psychology. I believe each person's NDE is exactly what they need. I think they're very unique to that person. And that's why, one person might see angels, another might see like a religious figure like Jesus or Muhammad. Another might just meet with their grandmother. Another has all their favorite pets from when they were a kid come in. It's very different. A lot of people do have what they call a life review, and there's this like quick look at everything. Time's very different on the other side, so they get this amazing condensed view of what their life has been like so far.
I'm gonna flash up your website real quick, if that's okay.
Please.
Yes.
So, many get that. I didn't get the life review because I simply didn't need it. I got the preview of coming attractions
Hmm.
because that's what was more needed for me. And I didn't get on my life path until 6 years after I was divorced.
Mm.
And that was the point in 2010 when I met this brings us back to soul contracts. I met the soulmate that had the contract to wake me up spiritually. So
Hmm.
there it came. He introduced me to Journey of Souls. I was like, oh, I've got to have one of these sessions. This book is like the answer book I didn't know I was looking for. So I just devoured it. It made so much sense to me. And I then had a session, my first past life regression, a year later. And then I had a life between lives the next year. I had 2 quantum healing hypnotherapy sessions the next year, and then I trained.
Mm.
Very cool.
So
So
to go through the website, of course, there's the usual home, about me, hum it, but then there's a contact me. So if you have some questions
Or if you're
or
looking
yeah,
for
looking for guidance,
some help.
you can contact Wendy through her website. She also has her phone number listed up on the website, but that's wendyrosewilliams.com, and it's regression healing. She, there's the different list, the menu, as you will, and you can go through and dig through, see if there's something in there for you. She does a lot of Zoom work, so you don't even have to, though I'm sure you can. You don't have to travel to Seattle. Although,
exactly.
if I was to
All
do it
sessions are via Zoom. I've been doing them that way since 2016, so
since
it's not related to COVID.
2016,
2016, I switched over
really?
and just had to learn the technology. I didn't even know what my guides were talking about. They're like, "Oh, you're going to start using Skype," and I'm like, "Skype? Are you saying Sky wrong? What are you talking about?" Because I didn't know what Skype was at the time, and nowadays it's Zoom, and that way
Yeah,
it's really easy to get a recording to
I wish
people.
I would have invested in Zoom a year ago.
That's right. That's
Good
right.
It
Lord.
is.
Because when you hear your
I bought it more.
voice,
I bought it a year and a half ago. If I would have invested in it the day I bought it, before the,
COVID hit and
is Zoom
everybody
even
used
publicly
it.
traded?
I don't know, it's
Okay.
Chinese or something, whatever. But still, I mean, I'm so behind the curve. I mean, right now I just barely invested in swamp coolers, and that's a
There you
good
go.
idea.
There you go.
You
Things that Bigfoot needs since he's behind you
Yeah.
on the wall there
Yeah,
for
but
his camping trips. But
let's
yes, people are so welcome to reach out via the website, and I'm happy to offer a 15-minute complimentary phone appointment and just talk it through and see if I can be of service.
That's
yes,
awesome.
definitely. We've had a couple of comments. Laura says it's weird how she understands your story. And, maybe she can elaborate. We're coming up on the end of the show, but um, you know, it,
Well, it's interesting when you hear things that just resonate. You're not sure where they resonate from, but they just make sense.
Mhm.
yes, yeah. I don't think I've ever had a near death experience. I don't think I've ever been near death, or quite close enough to where it amplifies to an experience.
I have definitely had premonition dreams,
Mhm.
um, but never a near death.
Yeah, and I don't know how I'd react to it. I
A
don't.
premonition dream, as in you shouldn't go somewhere, or that there might be something dangerous to avoid, or what type of premonition?
So just before my son was killed, I had
Hmm.
I had this impending sense of just it was
Doom.
doom. And it had gotten so bad that I thought I was going to die. So
Oh,
I had told my husband, I've got to increase my life insurance. Something's going to happen.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
I had these, every night, this reoccurring dream. And when he was found, it all made sense. And then I felt really guilty that I hadn't acted on this dream. Like if I had just listened to the dream. But it was interesting because that impending sense of doom was lifted. So the grief was kind of charging in a tidal wave, but that sense of doom was like, that was it. Okay, I made it through. It was really, really strange. And I haven't had the dream since.
Just how we can like be in tune with the energy of our loved ones, and can have that premonition. And that, I think premonitions can come in, it's not only through our psychic senses, but if you think about time being a human construct, that we call it past, present, future, that's really simplified to, for our small brains to manage. But if you think of time as being more continuous and more like everything happening at once, or time being like a wheel, so maybe you were just, feeling the energy of what was to come. I'm so sorry. That's such a difficult loss as a child.
It really, really was difficult. I think we're kind of coming to the other side of it, but shows like this are helpful.
Yeah,
because it gives you the thought of the beyond,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I spoke last week with a powerful resource group. I don't know if you've heard of Helping Parents Heal, and it's specifically for parents who have lost a child. It also supports siblings.
Yeah,
so,
very.
Great resource.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was
I'm telling you, if I agreed to that, I don't know what I was thinking.
I know.
I remember my mom, who has since passed. I mean, we really just back-to-back tragedies, but I'd gone to her and she said, you agreed to this. And I thought, what are you talking about? And so then
she said that when
after she
passed and you were hearing her?
No, after my son passed.
After he passed.
I said, I just don't understand. And she said, well, you agreed to
But
this.
she was alive, or you were communicating with her on the other side?
Before she had passed, she was alive.
Oh, interesting. And she knew that.
And so
she felt that.
She was a deeply religious, a deeply Mormon lady. And
part of their teaching is that you set out this plan.
Yeah,
I see. I didn't know that. Okay.
And so she would always tell me, you agreed to this. And I used to say, listen, lady.
Yeah,
if I agree to anything else, I take it back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I had it. It was in my hands, the contract. I could have wrote race car driver.
Right.
Race car driver.
Right.
Instead, I wrote Neanderthal. And then boom.
There's a silly cartoon with Maxine, the little old lady, and there's a greeting card with her laying on her couch with her bunny slippers on and her robe, and she's writing out a will. And the only thing it says on the card is, I'm leaving everything to me in case reincarnation is a thing.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Oh.
Well, thank you so much for coming on again, Wendy. And
well, thank you. My pleasure.
We'll have to have you come on again. We'll sit down in a few months and plan. I want to cover like more possibilities of the soul contracts and how they work out. So if you can, between now and let's say a few months down the road, I would communicate with my guides and get the answers. But obviously, it's me. My guides are, still Neanderthals. They grunt.
They're frazzled.
They might paint on caves.
No, they're exhausted because you keep turning them away, saying, "Oh, it's me. I can't talk with them."
I went and did the whole hypnotic thing, and
he really should do another session.
But what was the theory that you went to the other side? Why was there that Betsy? Why was the therapist thinking that?
That Jared went to
the life
that he went home to the light, like a between lives.
She thinks it's because he's kind of blocked off spirituality.
Okay.
And she thinks that his higher self decided that he would be best served to kind of get just a small glimpse.
My higher self was too high.
Yes.
to come down.
Well, and we don't plan to wake up in every lifetime. So, sometimes we're meant to just really be focusing on the now and be focusing on, like, maybe we're meant to be a star athlete or this, fantastic parent or whatever. There's so many
I
possibilities.
failed at
Sometimes
everything.
we're just really meant to be in the now.
At everything I failed.
Maybe this is
I
your
could,
soul
the only way I
contract.
could have got worse of it is if I'd have said, "Oh, you're going to have a bum knee or something." We're just going to throw it on there, or I mean, like I'm going down the checklist. Handsome? No. Successful? Funny? I made a check mark on the edge of that. Smart? I apparently didn't see that line. Keep going down. Good at math? No. Can he spell? I bet he tells him what to spell. I missed everything, and then went
Well,
down.
you can be the relatable everyman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Homer Simpson.
Check.
Lick the envelope, put it in the mailbox, and boom, here I am. Damn it.
Thanks for joining us
Yes.
today, Wendy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Interesting stuff.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your experience with us.
Absolutely.
We'll talk
My
again
pleasure.
soon. And if you've got when you get some new exciting enlightenment, reach out, let us know.
Yeah, or if you have something
Absolutely.
coming up and you want people to know about.
Clients have really different sessions going on right now, so that will be fun to talk about another time,
Oh
because
yeah.
literally today a gal remembered a parallel life on another planet.
Yes.
So
Okay.
that was very interesting, and people are remembering their interdimensional lives in addition to the on other planets.
And this is new?
Interdimensional, like fairies and mermaids and dolphins.
Okay,
and
so that's
all
the
kinds
next
of fun
show we're going to
things.
talk about is
Yeah.
parallel, alien, and interdimensional lives.
Yeah,
That-
interdimensional and interplanetary. So
What if, like,
people
the
are
alien-
waking up.
What if the alien theory and the mermaids and all that are real? They just were never here. It was always on something else, somewhere else.
Well, who knows? There's so
And
many
it's just
possibilities.
It's a brain worm that come with us. It's stuck in
But
from the last.
I
one.
do remember past lives as a mermaid, so it's
Really?
good, because when people are talking about it, they're like, "Oh, this just sounds too crazy. This
Hold
just
that
sounds too
thought.
weird."
Don't answer now, but I want to go with fish top, people bottom. I want to do. All right, thank you so much,
Thank you.
and we will talk to you very soon. And everyone, thanks for joining us tonight.
Have a great week.
Yeah, super fun show. We will be back on Tuesday.
Yeah.